Good morning. Happy September. Today is International Chocolate Day. That's awesome. I'm going to have to change my thinking for what I consume today. Hi, Sharon. All right. Today we're going to look at another block. It's a little bit of a simple one, but it is very dynamic, even though it may be a simple block. This week I've had a number of things going on. Probably the biggest interruption to my plans and my week is my neighbor had an overabundance of tomatoes, and so she generously shared, and I said, sure, I'll take a few, and I got a boatload. So I spent a great deal of yesterday canning salsa. So that was my big event for the day in that. So if you are on or coming on, pop into the chat box and say hello. And hi, Arda. Hi, Laverne. And Sharon. Good to see you this morning. All right. I'm going to drop the screen, and we're going to talk about a little bit about this ITSA Block. Because I don't know the name of it. If any of you know the name of this block, please pop in and share it, because I couldn't find anything. This I had from an old pattern that I had used, but I only had bits and pieces of the pattern. I had the picture of the block, so I recreated it, but I don't know what it was called. And then I tried to find it and could not. So Kristen and I renamed it ITSA Block. And as you can see from the pattern, and I'm going to ask Kristen to put the link in the chat box. I know that many of you are having difficulty finding the patterns on the website. So if Kristen, you could pop a link in, that would be absolutely wonderful. Hopefully that'll make it a little bit easier for people to find it. So this block has the look of a number of other blocks, but this one is made entirely with half square triangles and the 4 corner squares. So when I put the P as a print, and the background could be a low volume print as well, or the P's and B's could all be the same fabric for a background. It depends on what you want to do. But what's most stunning about this particular method of putting this block together is the fact that you have the 8 different colors around it. 8 different stars. My favorite is the Lemoyne, and this kind of has the look of a Lemoyne, but not exactly. And the 8 different colors. But you could certainly do this in a 2-color or 3-color. To me, it would look probably best in 2-color. If you did it in a solid color, this center literally could be one block, but then it would really change the look of the quilt. So just to give that. The second thing that I want to say about this pattern is that you need to use fabrics that really give you a value change, and so that the blocks that are up against each other are not the same value or in that range of value. Now, with that being said, I want you to know that the fabrics that I'm using for the blocks that I've been making, this honey bloom, I'm not finding that my values are real strong between the colors, and I don't have enough darks in the line that I have. And so I'm relying on color to give me the values or the change that I want. So with that being said, you know, this may not be as strong or as different in value as I might like it to be, but as you are choosing fabrics and looking at this pattern, I hope that you will take that into account. That if you put you know, if number one is a lighter one, that this one will be at least a medium value, and that you stick within a range, and also balance it. Not one really dark one in it, because when you look at the whole block, that's all you're going to see. So any thoughts on that? Yeah, Betty, that exactly, you said it better than I was today. With alternating dark and light in only 2 fabrics, it would be stunning, absolutely stunning. And when I do Lemoyne Stars, that is one of my favorite combinations with that. But I just wanted to say that so that as you are creating your block, you'll have that to think about. So I already did the top 2, and there is really a light glare today. Not sure why. Let me see if I can adjust that a little bit. That helps some, but not really a lot. And then I sewed the top one here just for the sake of, you know, the top of the bottom half, for the sake of time. And so each of these, because there's 2 fabrics, I can't make 4 at a time. I can't use my papers, all of that. I'm going back to half square triangles. And if I made these, you know, the way that many of us make half square triangles, where you put 2 squares together, draw the line down the center, and sew 1/4 inch on each side, I'm going to have, you know, 8 different half square triangles that I'm not using. So I'm going to go back to that basic method that I've been showing you, and I cut my squares a little bit oversized, because my finished size of my block is going to be 3/8, or excuse me, 3.5, 3 inches. So the magic number to add to the finished size is 7/8. So you would cut this 3 7/8 for making that half square triangle. Well, I like to size mine up, and if the sewing gets a little wacky or whatever, I have a little bit to, you know, trim off, or to create a difference on that. I've got something coming in. All right. Excuse me for that interruption. All right, so I am going to go back to my half square triangle, and when I put them together, you can use the pins, but I really want to make sure that this outside is, everything is in place. My triangles are good, and I've said it before that when you cut these fabrics in half, you're working a little bit with bias, and when you put them under the machine and start to sew, there can be movement, and pinning obviously helps with that. But when you remove the pin somewhere close to the end of your sewing line, it can still move on you. So way back when I learned of this glue, and they were talking about, because I wouldn't have ever thought of gluing my blocks, but the the inventors of this glue were on the quilt show, and they used it, and so I tried it out to see what that would do. And especially for things like this, I love it because I don't have a pin down here to worry about. I don't have for that movement, it's not going to move, and I will touch it with the iron because it just holds it in place. So let's take a look at this as we sew. And my leader is being obstinate. So as I put my needle down and get started at the beginning, I didn't put glue there because usually that side stays just fine. But as I'm sewing, there's nothing moving down here, because when I get about to this point, I'm having already pulled my pin, and this point starts to move a little bit, which I get off. And this way I can hold that all the way through, and I don't have that point moving anywhere on me. So, which makes doing this method okay. In the past, I didn't like this method so much because it did, because, those points did move, but I don't have any movement on either end of that. And I'm sorry, there's something with the light today, and it's really showing a glare every time I put something down. And I've moved everything I can move, and I do apologize for that. But hopefully you can see enough. So again, I set my seam, I run my iron along the side, and now I'm going to trim it. And when I trim it, what I'm looking, and I'll turn my ruler the right side, I'm putting my 45-degree angle along my seam line in the center. And I'm making sure that I have, fabric on all sides, and that it's not moving out. I got to grab my, and I'm going to stand up because, and this is what I love about these rulers. When I'm standing, I can get that, turn it, and now I can put, I can line it up at 3.5 because that's what it needs to be unfinished. And now I have my 3.5 unfinished block ready to go on that. All right. So let me put that over here. And now I'm going to do the same thing that I did with this block as I did with the other one. And I'm going to, and somebody asked me about the glue, that I didn't put it into the seam line last time. And I don't worry about that so much, depending on, the glue, the pattern and whatever. I just want it straight. I want it to the point so that it's not going to move. But if it's not in the seam line, and the answer to the question that came from a number of you to me was, no, it does not stain my fabric, and it doesn't leave a visible residue or anything. You don't even know where the glue had been when you take it off. And it's another reason why I particularly like this this glue as opposed to the many other glues that are out there. And each one has its purpose for what it's being used for. But for holding the end of this or any other blocks that I'm trying to do, I do really appreciate this glue because it does not leave any marks or residue on my fabric. And then when you wash your quilt, whatever, you're not going to see any issues with that. So again, I set my seam. I run my side of my iron. And now I'm going to do that one more time in terms of trimming it up. And again, I'm putting that 45-degree angle and trying to, you know, I'm barely, you know, trimming anything off. But I still like to, you know, to do the trimming simply because, you know, I'm not perfect all the time. You know, if I was incredibly futzy, I might be better. But I like having that little bit of extra so that if my sewing gets wonky, I can correct it, and now I can get the perfection I was looking for. So the bottom half of this, I need to put the solid goes on the corner. That would go there. This would go there, and this solid there. So let's go ahead and sew up that seam, because I want to put the I want to put those seams together just so that you can see that. Next week we have one more block in this series for now. We'll come back to, you know, different techniques and blocks at a later time. And then I want to talk a little bit today about what's coming. So we'll get there. So now I'm going to sew these two center parts together. And now I press the seams, and I kind of want to talk about this a little bit. I press the seams, and so now they're both going in the same directions. And they were already sewn, etc. And so I'm not going to change it because I have that same amount of fabric that it's going to go up against. What I do, and you could certainly open the seams on these, and I know many of you do, I don't, because half the time I forget. So I make sure that those are lined up right against each other. I put my pin straight down so that it's coming out in the seam line on the back side. Then I turn it and I pin again so that my pin is right in the seam line. And I know you can't see that, well, because I can't even. But I've got it right in that seam. So that way when I take it to the sewing machine, And depending on what you prefer, I could start at this end instead of the other. And I could also, use glue on that as well. And that would probably be a good thing. And so I can get right up to the pin at that angle and take that and there are things that I somewhat do unconventionally. All right, so now I have these two. This one has been pressed to the left so that it's opposite than what I'm going to sew it to on the center. So I want to press this one to the right because I have equal amounts of fabric on both sides, and you get a little bit of a hump, but you're going to get it whether you open the seams or not. That's my opinion, but I don't know if it's right. But it works for me. So now, as I pull these two together, I can still butt my seams up in the center. And I take my pin straight down, because if I put it in at an angle, it pushes the fabric. So I go straight down and I go from right to left, that 1/8 inch on each side. And then I can come back, and if these need to be, repressed or whatever, I can do that at this time. Because I forget to do it as I go. And I should probably mark my patterns so that I can see, where those places are that it's needed. And again, top right to bottom left on either side of the seam, from left to right. We'll sew these two together. And if you take the time as you're pinning and that's not wanting to pull together, that got a little bit of a... And this way I can sew all the way up to the seam before, and one stitch across that seam before I have to pull the pin. And that's why I like pinning that way, so I get those and then I'll just line up those corners. And now I have, when you open this, you have seams that all come together. Now on this particular seam, you certainly can open that up, and then you're going to have less bulk. And so if I were to press this, I would press this seam open. Because when you get to this center point, the other thing you could do is also pop the seam, and that way, you have that where this, goes one direction, that goes another. But I just continue to open I'll show you both ways because I can. So I can do it this way where I have that center bulk open the whole seam, or I can twist it like I just showed you, and then I can run my iron along that side, and now I don't have that bulk in the center, and I have all 4 of those coming into a perfect angle right in the center. And I would do the same here as I did there. So then the whole, let me see if this shows up a little bit better here closer. I will figure out this light situation for next week, I promise. It has been, I don't know if it's the time of year and the sun has changed, but I don't have windows open. And so I would do the same in that point. Let me go back and see if there's any questions. I am using a 1/4 inch foot, always do. Kathy, I would agree that the 60 and 80 weight threads are wonderful because they add less bulk in your seam line. Oh, thank you, Kristen, for telling me. You guys can see it. It's me who can't see it. And, you know, certainly can spray starch on your material to give it a little bit more volume and stability. That is another thing one can do. I just do not do those, so I don't necessarily always mention them, but thank you for putting it in the chat box. And Terry, absolutely. Always stand where you can get the best view. When I'm on the screen, I often try to sit and cut, and I'm always, it seems like I'm half the time I'm off. All right. The name of the glue is Acorn Glue, and Kristen has put a link up a little bit further down. Yeah, right there. Precision piecing start. They have a precision piecing starter kit, and the pressing stuff takes your seams and really lays them flat. It's amazing stuff. All right. Okay. I think I've seen the questions, and if you have any others, you know, you can email me. But there's ITSA Block, and hope you have fun with it. It goes together very quickly. We'll have another block next week, and then after that we're going to start a new project. I will be gone on the 27th. My retreat in Michigan happens. It starts that weekend, and I will be gone, but I'll return the following week, and we'll start our new project where I'm taking a book that I have that has 4 or 5 quilts in it that are fabulous, and I have wanted to make some of those, so we will work on some of the quilts because there's different techniques in this particular book. It's one of those books that I got all excited about because I had a lot of different choices in it that I really, really liked, and just haven't had a chance to get to them, so I'm going to do it with you on screen, hopefully. And anyway, so that will start after I return, after my retreat in Michigan, which that'll be the first Saturday in October. That will start the new project. And if you go to thequiltshow.com, you're going to see more explanation and a little bit more about them. I think we're going to have available by a PDF the book available to you. Then we're also going to have a low volume and a bright small bundles that you can choose to purchase if you wish, because many of the quilts in there, the backgrounds are, can be, and I like the low volume backing, so that's kind of what I am going to be showing on screen. Hopefully you'll like that too. So I'm very, very excited about starting a new project and having it all in one place. So we will see